Hi, folks. Thanks for being here. If you're interested in making a public comment, we'll be asking for that right after we do our initial roll call and open the meeting. If you're interested in making a public comment, if you could somehow make it known, raise your hand, or just let us know so that we can get you on our list. All right. Robert, are you going to take notes on this?
Yes, sir.
Are you going to close the executive session?
Are we recording? We are recording. Yes, we're good.
Hey, Michael, you want to close the executive session?
Yep. Are we all here?
I don't see Commissioner Briscoe yet. Commissioner Briscoe?
Okay. I'll wait just a moment.
You don't want that, Pete. Now you're.
All right. Looks like that's Commissioner Briscoe logging in.
How far did he have to go?
All right. I think we are all here now. So I am going to start out today. This is Commissioner Shepard. I'm going to close our executive session and open our public meeting. This is the Port of Bellingham Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, September 1st, 2020. We continue to operate under a public health emergency here in Whatcom County. And accordingly, we are operating our meetings with remote access available. You can access our meetings either through a conference dial-in or the Zoom login, which are both found on our website. I'm going to start with roll call with Commissioner Bell.
Is your mic on?
Did you say that again? It didn't come through.
Present.
Okay. And Commissioner Briscoe.
Present.
And Commissioner Shepard is here as well. All three commissioners are present. All right, we're going to move into public comment. I saw at least one person indicate that they're interested in speaking. We have a public comment at both 4 and 5:30, and I'm going to let our executive director run from his list on who's up first.
Did anyone sign up here? We don't have anyone signed up here, and I haven't seen anyone asked to be public comments. So,
see, I see a couple of people raising their hand. I see Brian and Arnold both have raised their hands.
why don't we go with Arnold first, then Brian?
All right. You can unmute yourself, and public comment is 3 minutes in length, and the floor is all yours.
Okay, well, thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep. Okay, perfect. My name is Arnold. I'm with Boundary Fish here in Blaine. And my concern with previous discussions from the last meeting was the South Dock issue we're having here in Blaine Harbor, as well as on a bigger scale, the I guess, opening of the harbor here for other companies to come in. But I think myself and my fellow tenants all share some of the same concerns. But if I could highlight concerns that directly affect my business here in Blaine, the South Dock that we're all talking about is literally about 10, 15 feet from my property line. And there's just no space there to open it up to public or for other companies to come in and rent or lease the hoist on a temporary basis. I see other buyers, and it's pretty standard procedure to have 5 or 6 box trucks, pickup trucks, 1 or 2 semis, and to cram all that in between where I am and the next company over, which is Mr. Fox, there's just physically no space. I just don't see it happening, and it poses a really big safety issue as well, with forklifts running around and trucks and semis backing up. I wish you guys had a picture of the property up here, but it's pretty clear to see that there's really no space to have that place opened up for free enterprise. That's my main concern as far as geography goes. And then on the commerce end, there's several concerns when outside buyers come into the harbor here and start buying and selling products from the crabbers, fishermen. I guess that's my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnold. Brian Pernula is up next, and I've got Jason Gobbin on deck. And again, if you want to make public testimony, just go ahead and raise your hand and I'll put you on the list. And by raising your hand, we're talking about over in the participant section.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm here representing North Sound Pacific Seafoods here in the Blaine District. We're here to talk today, more importantly, about what's taking place on the Sawtooth Dock and the rules and regulations that have changed since there's been obviously some stuff that's taken place that we haven't been privy to, but soon found out, because if we look out our window right here, we can see there's 5 or 6 box trucks flying across the Sawtooth Dock just to the south of us. Our concern is that we are being undermined as tenants due to the fact that, we invest all this money as a tribe with the Port of Bellingham, only to be undermined by users coming in and paying $100 fee to use the dock. We feel that this isn't a great answer to maybe some problems that are taking place here in the Blaine area, and we'd like to further discuss this and have some input on maybe some resolution to what's going on. We are concerned as well with the amount of revenue lost and the amount of money we have to invest to withhold a lease with the Port of Bellingham, only to be turned around and, like I said, be undermined as well. I'm not quite sure what the answer to this is, or if there is an answer, but we'd love to hear your guys' input as well as to what's going on next door to us, if we can. I've addressed Brady Scott about this during some other meetings that we've had regarding some other stuff. But I know Jason, is here with me as well, and he will chime in, and kind of give his take on what's going on as well.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Jason Gobbin, you're up next, and I've got Marilyn Martinson on deck. Again, if you want to speak, go ahead and raise your hand over in the participant section. I'll get you on the list. So, Jason Gobbin.
Yeah, hi. My name is Jason Gobbin. I'm Fish and Wildlife Director, Natural Resources, Tulalip Tribes. I'm here representing the tribe today and the concern over the buying situation that is happening, directly adjacent to the facility that we purchased and are leasing, the properties from the Port of Bellingham. We've seen, in the past, I don't know how many years I've been up here crabbing, we haven't been able to operate this with box trucks, and we've utilized the tenants that are here in the property, which the tribe took the initiative to look at purchasing this facility and property to create a business to operate here at Blaine Harbor. And one of the things that was fundamentally there was that this was our way to get in and make sure we had buying capability for all of our fishermen and all fishermen, whether it's Tulalip fishermen or non-treaty fishermen. And so we spent a considerable amount of money purchasing this property and setting up lease and operating this business here, and to be just completely undermined by box trucks that have no cost overhead coming in and competing against us literally within eyesight or 100 yards from our business that we set up here, that we put a lot of effort into. And it gravely concerns me that, we weren't notified of any of this, as tenants, that we show up here to purchase crab, and this is basically our first operation here out of the port, these last 2 summer openers. And this and this gets dropped on us as the tribe begins to operate this business, it's gravely concerning, because if we would have known that, I don't think we would have invested the millions of dollars that we're going to be putting into the port here and into these facilities. If we knew, we would have just had to pay $100 to have a box truck come up and buy, and it's gravely concerning as a tenant, and for the tribe to make this investment and then to directly get undermined, and we'd like to have that discussion with the port, or whether it's with the commission or executive staff, on how this is going to play out for the remaining part of our lease. Is this now the new standard operating procedure for the port? And if so, is there going to be some sort of rent abatement for us as tenants, or something to that matter? Or will this be stopped to allow us as tenants to grow and develop these businesses here inside the port and inside these facilities? Because all of these other buyers they're only here for 5 days a year. We're here paying lease 365 days a year so that we could open up this business and operate, and to be directly competed against it's very disheartening for us.
Thank you, Jason. Marilyn Martinson?
Yes. This is Bellingham Fox. Marilyn is my accountant, and I have the same concerns as the other buyers do down here. It costs a considerable amount, and none of us have had any income here for close to 6 months. And we all look forward to this. It's usually pretty good. In fact, Goldman's used to sell to me for a number of years, but they continued to grow, and I did too. This is not community friendly at all, folks. Let me tell you, because those box trucks that he's talking about, I know who's involved. I know the numbers as to what was south down there. And for us to virtually send almost $250,000 into the port of O'Connor and Anacortes that should be staying in Bellingham, whether it's Lummies, I have to congratulate the two Laylips on stepping up the plate and trying to be part of the community. A lot of these people aren't, and this is probably something that I should talk to the commissioners about, like Goldman and make some points on some crap. I asked somebody this morning how long it took for a Dungeness crab to mature. They said they didn't know. Check your science, guys. I think it's for years to get to legal size. And we have fought ever since I've been in business. I fought the first load of native crab in Blaine. And that's to stay away from taking shorts and female. And this is inviting that to take place. Anyway, my thought is we don't need to open this door. It's very damaging to me and 3 other established businesses that are there. These fishermen, Bobby can say what's to about them having to plead and beg to get something done. That isn't so. We have loaded ocean boats with pots to go to the ocean and never take a dime from them. We don't get their crab or nothing else. We've never turned one down to my knowledge unless there was a reason for it. And usually it was because of 20 years of past history. I'll leave these thoughts with you, and hopefully somebody can give me a call and we'll talk about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bingham. Commissioners, I don't see anyone else has raised their hand. Is there anyone else out there that can't figure out how to raise their hand or can't raise their hand? Maybe you just want to unmute yourself and speak now. We'll give you a couple seconds here. Okay, I think we're done with public testimony.
Okay, thank you all very much. We are going to move on to our consent agenda. Carrie, if you please.
Motion to approve consent agenda items A through D.
Great. Any questions or comments for my fellow commissioners?
None for me.
All right, hearing none. Carrie, if you'd read the motion again, please.
Motion to approve consent agenda items A through D.
Okay. Commissioner Briscoe,
Yes.
Commissioner Bell,
Yes.
and Commissioner Shepherd is a yes as well. That brings us to our one and only presentation for the meeting. Looks like we've got Brady Scott with a working waterfront task force update.
Good evening, commissioners. I'm about to share my screen, and I want to confirm you can see that slide.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. I'm Brady Scott, Senior Property Manager with the Port. This is another update on our effort with the Working Waterfront Coalition to consider a policy to protect marine trade properties at the Port. This slide shows the strategic budget objective statement we're working on this year, as well as the draft policy statement that we shared with you on the June 2nd Commission meeting, which would simply designate certain properties to be used for water-reliant commercial marine uses for purposes of implementing new leases on port property. We're not asking for any action today, but this presentation provides a brief progress report and an opportunity for the commissioners to ask questions or provide any feedback on where we're at. Reminding folks, the team working on this is Shirley McPheron, Director of Real Estate, Brian Gowron, Director of Environment and Planning, Greg McHenry, Senior Planning Analyst, and myself for the Port. And then with the Working Waterfront Coalition, Jim Kyle, Mike McCauley, Pete Granger, Steve Walker, George Dyson, and Casey Ohms. And I know Jim and Peter are with us today, I believe. Go to the next slide here. In our last update, we received feedback from the commission in regards to the draft Blaine map. Based on that direction, we revised the map, which is shown here. Light shaded area surrounded by the red line is the proposed water-reliant commercial marine area for Blaine, and includes almost the entire Blaine properties owned by the Port, except for the Jorgensen Pier, the small area around the Fish and Wildlife food stand. The Alaska Wild Fish and Chips food stand, and then the area in and around Point Roberts Press and Innovative Property Design, which is primarily used for office and retail area. The made from our presentation in June is that the area south of the web locker was added in, as well as the area out where Sundance Marine leases. Following our work on Blaine, we focused on the area in and around the Squalicum Creek waterway, shown here. It includes Little Squalicum Beach to the west, extending over to the Seaview North leasehold property on the east. This map is a draft, and it shows the area we propose to designate as water-reliant commercial marine in this area, which is essentially everything waterward of Roeder Avenue and waterward of the Mount Baker Plywood leasehold. The area to the west down Little Squalicum Beach was considered undevelopable given the shallow tide flats and the shoreline designations. And we have not yet focused on the area of Squalicum Marine, the Squalicum Harbor area, which would be at a future map.
Brady, just real quick on that. Isn't there an office building? Is that it right there? Okay, thanks.
Okay. Yep.
Who owns that office building?
Gaslin Bay.
It's a private partnership. I will point out that the first floor of that office building, I believe, has to be Marine Trades or something, and they have a hard time leasing it because of that.
That's on our property or not?
Correct. It's a ground lease to us.
Yeah, the bottom floor has been empty the entire time the building's been
And that requirement was a city requirement, I believe, when they built that building.
A city requirement to have the marine trades use?
Surely, is it marine trades that's required to be in there, or what's the restriction there that makes it hard to lease?
Yeah, thank you for asking. It's just been difficult to lease. That lease was amended back in 2013 to delete the requirement for marine trades use on the ground floor.
And yet it's still unleased.
And yet it is still unleased.
Is that a parking issue, do you think? That's a tangent for a later date. Sorry.
One question on your map you got. How come I don't see Colony Wharf in that area in here, Brady?
Colony Wharf would be further down into an area we haven't shown yet. So we just focused with the working waterfront on this area. And so the map we have for you today, that'd be a future map.
So this is just the area you've worked with so far.
Right, and we have much more work to do, right?
Okay, very good.
Any other questions about this map area?
Could you just refresh me on what the policy means in terms of if we're designating this as water reliant, are we prohibiting other types of use, or are we encouraging? What's the word we're using there?
The policy as drafted would mean any new leases would require it to be a water reliant commercial marine use. And that's defined. There's a kind of a 3-point definition on that, meaning you have to be a commercial marine activity that requires access to the water, and the majority of your business is that activity.
Okay.
So Brady, I have a question. North of Roeder, we have Tri-County Marine Engine Company over there. Is that going to be considered in the next chart map or whatever you want to call it? Or
we considered that in this area, and that the area on that side of Roeder Avenue and the train tracks would not be designated that. Stopped basically where this red line is. We stopped mapping that because that's the change from the industrial use area into our harbor area. And so that area we left out, similar to Mount Baker plywood.
Shirley, I have a question. Is Tri-County's lease under the waterfront, water reliant lease or not?
It is not, but I will tell you, staff has a meeting with the Working Waterfront Coalition tomorrow at noon, and this very issue is our topic of discussion as to whether the property on the north side should be water reliant or not. So we'll come back and have further discussion with the commission once we understand the coalition's position.
Right, because that Tri-County Marine Engine is exactly what it says, marine engines mostly. I mean, they do anything, but the bulk of their work is marine engines. So it's one of our marine businesses. So, all right, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, and this is Pete Granger, Working Waterfront Coalition. Yeah, Bobby, we have brought this up, and there's some properties along road or further down that we'll be discussing on how we might encourage water reliant use of that. It might be a little bit less stringent, but we haven't really got into discussions on that yet.
Very good, Pete. Thank you.
How would in Blaine Harbor on your previous map, say a restaurant wanted to open up, how would that fit into this water reliant policy? And if the restaurant was within the boundaries of the red lines?
So I believe if it was fully a restaurant, that it would not fit that definition of water reliant commercial marine use.
But I would add to that, Commissioner Shepherd, if I may, the Camway building and the Northern Light building both have areas for restaurant uses that they'd love to secure a ground floor restaurant use. They both tenants would love to sublease around 3,000 to 4,000 square foot for restaurants. So we could do it in that area because it's outside of the water reliant.
Okay. I like I like the policy around encouraging this type of water reliant business and protecting our marine trades. I'm wondering about the need for flexibility, about a clause for if, we have other clauses, whether it's in our web lockers or elsewhere, for individuals to come to the commission for approval for a unique idea. So what if there is a unique idea that comes forward that commission likes, it doesn't exactly fit into this water reliant? What do we do? Do we have an option for entertaining those and providing exemptions and exclusions to this policy?
I would suggest that the commission can lease the property for whatever it deems is appropriate. This would be in our strategic plan, but I would add that if we had other offers, we would bring them forward, and it will be up to the commission to decide.
Okay. So Shirley, is there enough precedent for that, or do we need to put that into this policy as well?
I think I'd like an opportunity to discuss what that means with the Working Waterfront Coalition, and then come back to the commission and make a recommendation of what that wording looks like. I understand where you want to get to, and I think the Working Waterfront Coalition will agree with that and would support that, and let us figure out some language that would be acceptable to the commission.
And I'm in agreement with Commissioner Shepherd. I don't want to lock, say, a restaurant out. We had a restaurant in Blaine on the waterfront. I don't want to lock the possibility of having one out there. I don't want to displace any businesses to do that, but if there's space available, I don't want to lock them out with this red line either.
Yeah, I think a cool restaurant location could be an upper floor near the boat launch. There's with something ground floor and upper floor restaurant, there's beautiful views. There's lots of options, and I just want to make sure we preserve the flexibility we need to meet issues of the moment.
Understood. Thank you.
Great. So our next steps are to continue meeting with the Working Waterfront Coalition. Our next meeting is tomorrow. We've been working on the central waterfront area, which includes landing at Colony Wharf and the other areas between the INJ waterway and the Whatcom waterway. And that's our current area. So you'd expect to see a map of that area the next time we do an update. And then we'll continue to cover the other areas throughout Bellingham Bay. So as previously explained, the idea is to incorporate this policy into the draft comp scheme, which would be subject to a future public hearing and commission action at that time. So if there's any further feedback or questions, we'd welcome those now.
This is Pete again. Just to reiterate the excellent relationship we have with Shirley and her team, and discussions have been very fruitful. We're optimistic that we can reach agreements that will continue to protect the waterfront, but will allow some flexibility as well. And the central waterfront definitely presents some different challenges in that regard, but we're enjoying working our way through this. Thanks.
Pete, will you guys also be visiting the South Bellingham properties, FMIP, and the Fairhaven Peninsula area?
Yes. Yep. And we'll back up over to Squalicum Harbor as well.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we have no action items today. And so I think we can move into any other business, and then we'll circle back to public comment opportunity again at 5:30.
I have no other business today.
Okay, Commissioner Bell?
I have nothing either.
All right. Rob, could you give us an update on our temporary ferry service to Roberts?
Happy to do that. So for everyone's knowledge, the commission at the August 11th meeting directed staff to start a ferry service from Point Roberts to Blaine, I believe. And we did that on August 25th. So 2 weeks later, on Tuesday, August 25th, we chartered a vessel from Drew Schmidt, San Juan Cruises. And Drew picked folks up, but somewhere around, I guess it was 11 o'clock in the morning, and delivered them to Blaine at about 11:30, I think. And I'm sorry, picked them up about 9:30 and delivered them to Blaine about 11. And then he reversed that in the evening at somewhere around 3:30 left Blaine. We had about 100 requests, we think, for 40 spots on the vessel. We satisfied those 40 spots. There were about 8 no-shows, but we did have some walk-ons that got to go on because of the no-shows. When we did our second run this morning, this Tuesday, it should be going home. Yeah, it should be going on its way back to Point Roberts right about now. So those folks will return home by about 6 o'clock tonight. And that'll be the end of the second sailing. Again, major demand, all 40 slots filled. I can't report out on the no-shows yet because I don't know that number, but we did tell people that they could go down to the Point Roberts dock and they could see if they could get on by standby. We have decided that it's going to be much better for everyone to go directly into Bellingham. This is feedback we've gotten from Point Roberts residents, from people who want to take the vessel. And we also want to open it up to people transiting the other way. And an example of people that need to do that is the guy that got on today in Bellingham and went up to Point Roberts, was taking groceries up to his 90-plus old mom or grandma who couldn't get to the store herself. So, and then we also took up the lady from the Census Bureau. The Census Bureau hadn't had an opportunity to get up there and count people, and they saw this as an opportunity to do that. So we want to open up more to that type of use. We want to come directly into Bellingham to save the hassle of getting off the boat, getting on a WTA bus, being dropped at Cordata, transferring to another bus. We think if we drop them right in the heart of Fairhaven, WTA has said they would help out with some extra bus runs down to Fairhaven. And we're going to open up the window or make it wider so they arrive earlier in Bellingham and go home maybe a little later into Point Roberts. And we're also going to add the bigger vessel of Drew's because the sailing is longer and in rougher waters going from Point Roberts to Blaine. We're going to take his bigger vessel, which I think he said holds 60 plus if you're somewhat distanced. And then we're going to add a Friday sailing. So we'll go Tuesdays and Fridays. We're trying to work through, this is all preliminary. Sorry, we're still in discussion on some of this, but we hope to have this all finalized by tomorrow morning, have a press released by tomorrow morning, and have a reservation system open up that people can start to make reservations for next Tuesday and Friday and even weeks beyond that. To date, we've only accepted reservations for the next sailing because we didn't have a reservation service. But I think in the future, we're going to be sophisticated enough that we'll be able to take reservations maybe even up to a month in advance. That's my update.
I have a quick question, if I might, Michael.
Sure.
Rob, have we heard anything back from the commit or the groups discussing between the two countries, Canada and the U.S., any of our negotiation teams, anything on an end in sight to this kind of stopping Point Roberts residents from coming to the U.S. unless they have emergency needs?
Yeah, as
any
you
other
know,
questions?
Yeah, as you know, there has to be a border crossing. A lot of people are concerned that by the port putting this ferry into place, that it would sidetrack the federal conversations over the border solution. It simply can't do that. We reached out to our federal delegation. They assured us it would not get in their way. They were pushing harder for a border solution. They saw this as a great short-term solution to get people back and forth now until that border crossing is solved. I don't have an update for you on the latest on the border crossing. If Don Goldberg is on and wants to unmute himself, he could maybe talk to us about those conversations because he's attending those meetings on behalf of the port.
Thank you. Don Goldberg, Director of Economic Development. Typically, we have border crossing meetings on Tuesdays. We've gone to every other week, so we did not have one today. I did speak with the governor's office just prior to our commission meeting beginning. And they told me they are still working on having, trying to get us some kind of support for funding. But at this point, there's no update from the border, other than there was an extension to September 21st on the border closing. And we expect, as other months, that it will continue to get extended.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Rob.
Rob, could you just update us on the safety precautions that crew and staff are taking to ensure that we don't have transmission of virus for people coming on board?
Sure. Yeah, masks are definitely required, as anywhere. And pretty much this is just like walking into the grocery store. You're going onto a ferry, you're like going into the grocery store. You got to keep your distance from people around you. You got to wear your mask. Make sure you're not going when you have any kind of symptoms. If you have symptoms, you should be staying home and isolating yourself. It's the same stuff we've been hearing over and over again, just like you would walk into a retail store. So we ask if you're taking the ferry that you treat this just like going to the grocery store. Put your mask on.
Okay, thank you.
And then you can also shed some light on the rumor that there might have been a COVID positive employee.
Yeah, there's been tests done of San Juan Cruise employees, and to date, none have come up positive. They are negative. So I know there was a rumor going around that a San Juan Cruise, a member of the crew on the boat, tested positive, and we can't find any substance to that rumor at all. In fact, in talking to Drew Schmidt, he told me that his team members that have been tested all tested negative.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, we're certainly we're taking health and safety seriously on board, and we hope that the federal delegation continues to make progress with getting that land border solution. That's what everyone eventually needs. But I do want to commend staff for getting this up and running in a very short amount of time, and to Commissioner Briscoe for bringing this up at our last meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I just want to point out that border crossing is essential. I mean, we can take 40 or 60 people across, and there's 1,500 people live over there. So, in the next year, we won't get to them all.
Yeah.
And I would just point out that I've had some comments and some emails that people didn't understand. This is not a permanent solution. This is a solution, a temporary solution to help the folks at Point Roberts that need to get out of there to do things other than emergency things. And that's all this is designed is a temporary solution to the problem, not a permanent one. And thank you for the Point Roberts folks for reaching out to me, bringing it to our attention. And thank you to staff and our executive director for leading the charge and making something happen very quickly. Maybe some of the other governments in our state can take notice and start moving on some things as quickly as we do here at the Port of Bellingham. Thank you to the staff.
Don, do you have a comment?
Talking crazy.
Commissioners, I did forget one thing that I did get noticed this afternoon by Susan Delbenny's office, that there was a new letter written that went out today. That was a dual letter from the other community that has similar situation in Minnesota. So one of the Minnesota representatives and Susan Delbenny wrote a new letter to the Canadian government asking for special permission because they're asking for the same ruling as people who are commuting to Alaska, basically. And so there's now 2 states that are joining forces to try to do something.
Okay. Great. Well, I wanted to acknowledge those individuals who provided public comment earlier. I appreciate you coming forward to us. We're going to continue to look into that situation. And I'd like to ask staff to make sure and take the opportunity to get any additional input needed from any of those individuals who did speak today, so that we're able to address this issue again at our next opportunity. So please don't feel that we're not being attentive to your concerns. We didn't have this topic on our agenda, but I expect it will be in a future meeting coming up soon. Okay, any other questions
Michael,
or comments?
I see a hand raised for Maryland. Is that just it?
I think it might be a legacy from the check-in
last
earlier,
one.
but Bingham Fox, did you want to talk again, or are you okay with what you said earlier? You're muted, Mr. Fox. We can't hear you.
Okay, right there, I got it. I got it clear. No, I think that everybody, the letters they've received from me, realize where I stand on this, and there's very definite reasons for it. Our overhead is tremendous to set there, and I wish it was just $100 a day, guys, or even 100. In this case, it's $100 for 2 days out of the year. So anyway, think about it, and I'd be more than willing to discuss it with anyone. I would very much like to see this just go by the wayside. These crabbers and fishermen they're supported well down there. And usually if you don't want to offload somebody, there's a reason for it. Anyway, I've stated my case very, very much so with Andy and Rob and Bobby. So you all know where I'm coming from. But the main thing you need to do is ask yourself why they did away with public docks and support Milwaukee and Brookings, Oregon. There's reasons for it. So just free to call me. Okay, guys?
Yeah, I have the names of everyone who commented earlier, and either myself or someone from our real estate department will be in touch over the next week or so.
Okay, very good. Thanks very much, Rob.
Okay, well, does anybody want to, I guess we have our public comment at 5:30, and we can go ahead and go into recess until then, unless anyone has any other questions or comments they'd like to bring up now.
So we're going to recess and come back on at 5:30?
That was my plan.
Recess.
There's no recess in school, but we can recess still.
Sounds good.
Okay, so Rob, you'll leave the meeting open.
Yep, I'm going to just leave it open, and it'll still be recording and everything. So mics are live, everyone.
Okay, so I'll just mute yourself, and then we'll come back here at 5:30. public meeting and open this up for public comment. Do we have anyone who wishes to provide public testimony today?
So I see there's a couple folks on that are not port employees. And if any of them would like to talk, either raise your hand or just go ahead and unmute yourself and speak up. Okay, we got
Mr. Joseph.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I just want to speak on the commercial buyers for the crab fishery. I know I'm also a Tulalip tribal member, and Tulalip tribes purchased that outer dock. And at a couple of our general council meetings a couple of years ago, they start talking about what was going on when we're up there and we're fishing, and the price fluctuates so much, and it's always our tribal members are always getting, a lower price. And so we're going to try and tribes are going to try and change that by buying this stock, and then so it got voted on, and the tribe put up the money, and then we're going to have somebody run it. And the people that were running it before came to our down to our tribe and met, and they were talking about what they could do and how they could help our tribal fishermen getting top dollar for their product. And there was a long discussion at that meeting how those guys got in to be the ones to already sign a contract without any input from all the tribal fishermen down in Tulalip. And it came that it was a business decision by the business side of the board. And they kept reiterating that they would make sure that our tribal fishermen would get top dollar for their crab. So the first opener, they paid 50 cents or 25 cents less. This opener, they're paying 50 cents less. And some of the buyers that come down to Tulalip when we're open, a couple of box trucks, and we use docks. We use our own tribal dock, and then we use Everett Marina dock, and those box trucks come over there and they, give you 50 cents more or $1 more, for the crab if you don't have any shorts or you don't have any softs or anything. So sure, they're inspected and everything, but you get a better price for them. And now the same people that came down and signed a contract with our tribe to keep buying crab at that dock and give us, top dollar. They went down a quarter last week and 50 cents this week. And now they're opposed to having those box trucks come in and we sell our crab to them. So I was just wondering, then they want to eliminate those box trucks coming and buying our crab. And I think they should be allowed to, so that we get top dollar. I mean, if you have two boats like I do and you catch 4,000 pounds and those guys want to give you 50 cents less, that's a lot of money for some crabbers, So I think they should be allowed to come in there and compete with those guys, even though we hired them, they're on our payroll and they're still giving us 50 cents less. So I'm not sure if the port has a say in all that, or I'm not sure.
Can you clarify something for me, is it Keegan?
No, that's my grandson's. He's signed in for schooling. My name's Harold Joseph.
Okay, Mr. Joseph. You hired folks to run what used to be Sound Pacific. The Tulalip tribe bought that, correct?
Yeah, and then they were gonna hire somebody to run it. Some of the tribal members was gonna do it. There was a different person in mind, and they end up hiring the same guys that run Sound Pacific, and tries to have them under contract.
Okay.
Even though they came down and says, we're going to get you top dollar, so, and then so they're opposed to those trucks coming in. They'd rather us sell to them. And there was a big, there's a big discussion down on the dock about the whole thing. Hey, you guys are working for us and blah, blah, I think if they want to go 50 cents less, hey, that's fine. But those box trucks still should be able to come in and, they even gave this morning our first catch, they upped it $1.
I was just going to say, I know one buyer that was there was $1 over everybody else.
Yeah.
Okay. I just, so you're a Tulalip fisherman, correct?
Right. Yeah, I've been.
And you're not happy with what's going on at the dock that your tribal folks purchased. Is that correct?
That's right. I think, if they came down and they presented themselves to all of us, we're sitting in a meeting with, 100 fishermen and our board members and our commissioners and everything, and they're given their plea to get the contract and say that they're going to give us top dollar for crab, fish, whatever you guys bring in, we're going to get you top dollar. But, and then this is the second time now, and they're under.
For clarification purposes, that's the folks the tribes hired to run the dock over there. That yes. Brian Pamerline,
yes,
and Mr. Burrell.
Yeah,
I forget Mr. Burrell's first name. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that's who you were speaking about.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Paul is a part of that organization anymore. I think he sold his interest, but Mr. Brian
Correct,
Cornell
his brother.
Yeah. I think his brother.
I couldn't remember Alex's name, but yes. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Joseph.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Okay. Doesn't sound like it. Mr. Joseph, I don't know if you heard me earlier, but we will be revisiting this topic most likely at our next commission meeting. So we don't have an action item to address today on this particular topic, but we are digging into it. Staff is going to do some more work over the next 2 weeks and bring us back some recommendations next week to consider at our next meeting.
Okay.
And so if you are available, our staff may reach out to individuals who have signed up and provided testimony today if they have any further questions.
Okay, appreciate it.
All right.
Mr. Joseph, what was your first name again? Was it Harry?
Harold.
Harold, thank you.
Okay, well, hearing no other comments or questions, I'll just ask one more time. Any commissioners have any other items to bring up? Going once, going twice. We are adjourned. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everyone. Good meeting.